Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our channel, where we endeavor to bring you the best horror-themed stories and tales that are guaranteed to deliver an equal dose of fear and excitement. Settle down, lock your doors, and prepare for a taste of the Frightmare Vault.
The Abyss Beckons. The Oceanic Star was the crown jewel of luxury cruises, a floating paradise promising fine dining, five-star entertainment, and relaxation under the vast open sky. That's what drew Laura and Mark Hastings aboard, eager for a much-needed getaway from the pressures of city life. The voyage was to take them through the Caribbean, a scenic trip with stops at breathtaking islands. But as the third night fell, the Oceanic Star sailed into a part of the sea that didn't exist on any official maps. The first sign that something was wrong came subtly, a strange stillness in the air. The breeze, which had been warm and salty, turned stale. The horizon seemed off-kilter, as if the sea stretched farther than it should, an illusion that made the ship feel minuscule against the infinite expanse. Then the temperature dropped, not dramatically, but enough for goosebumps to rise along Laura's arms. It was as if the ocean itself had taken a deep breath and held it. Mark stood at the balcony of their suite, staring into the darkness. "Something feels wrong," Laura joined him, frowning. The sky was strangely void of stars, just an ink-black void above them. "I think you're just letting the ocean get to you," said Laura. A distant sound echoed through the night, a low humming resonance that seemed to come from below the ship. It wasn't mechanical, nor was it the cry of any sea creature they'd ever heard. It was something else, something ancient. Then, beneath the waves, something shifted. It was imperceptible at first, but when the waves began to move with no wind in sight, the unease spread like wildfire through Laura's chest. Then the power flickered. The ship shuddered as though it had struck something beneath the waves. Glasses tumbled from tables in the dining halls, and passengers gasped in alarm. The lights went out completely for a few terrifying seconds before the emergency systems kicked in, bathing the corridors in an eerie red glow. A rhythmic pounding sound vibrated through the hull, like the heartbeat of something enormous. The captain's voice rang through the PA system, crackling with interference. "Attention, passengers. We are experiencing a temporary systems malfunction. Please remain calm while we assess the situation." But calm was the last thing anyone felt. In the ballroom where an evening gala had been underway, waiters dropped their trays as the grand chandelier above swayed unnaturally, its golden light flickering like a dying flame. On the top deck, the crew scrambled to make sense of the ship's sudden loss of navigation. The radar screens displayed nothing but static, and the GPS coordinates refused to load. They had vanished from every map. Laura and Mark stepped cautiously into the hallway, where other passengers murmured nervously. A young woman clutched her husband's arm. "Did we hit something? Are we sinking?" A crew member hurried by, clutching a radio. "Stay in your cabins, please," he barked, but the fear in his voice betrayed him. Mark grabbed his arm. "What's happening?" The man hesitated. "The captain is handling it. Just stay inside." He bolted down the hall before Mark could press him further. It was then that Laura noticed something odd. Water was pooling at the far end of the corridor. The ship hadn't tilted, but there was no mistaking it. "That's not right," she whispered. The air carried a strange briny scent that was different from the usual sea air. It smelled ancient, like the depths of the ocean itself had crept aboard. The humming sound returned, louder now, vibrating in their bones. Mark grabbed Laura's hand, his grip tight with unease. A blood-curdling scream tore through the silence. It came from the deck above them. Without thinking, they ran toward the sound, joining a small crowd of terrified passengers gathered at the base of the staircase leading to the top deck. A crew member blocked the way. "Everyone back to your rooms," he shouted. But his voice shook. "Someone screamed up there," a man argued. "We have a right to know what's going on." The crew member hesitated. But before he could respond, something slammed into the metal railing above them with a sickening crack. It was a body. A crew member lay twisted and broken, his lifeless eyes staring at nothing. His face was frozen in an expression of pure terror, mouth open in a silent scream. Gasps and cries of horror rippled through the crowd. The crewman blocking the stairs turned pale, his own terror taking hold. Laura covered her mouth, stifling a sob. "We need to get off this ship." Mark turned to her, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't think we can." The ship lurched violently, throwing them against the walls. The floor beneath them groaned, and the lights above flickered again, casting monstrous shadows along the corridors. A deep guttural sound, neither entirely human nor machine, seeped through the walls. A whispering echo that slithered into their ears. Then, all at once, the sea outside the windows was no longer there. Instead of dark waves, an expanse of swirling mist surrounded them, stretching into an empty abyss. A void where the horizon should have been. A low, guttural whisper slithered through the air, impossible to pinpoint. It was as if the ship itself had begun to breathe. The metal groaned beneath their feet, and something moved in the mist beyond the windows, something impossibly large, with glowing, shifting shapes that didn't conform to any earthly anatomy. A second scream rang out, this one deeper, more agonized, then another. They came from different parts of the ship, overlapping, filling the halls with a chilling symphony of terror. The walls trembled as something scraped against the outer hull, as if dragging jagged claws along the metal. Laura clutched Mark's arm. "We have to find the lifeboats." They stumbled forward, dodging panicked passengers, but as they neared the emergency deck, they found the lifeboat still latched tightly. Worse, the ropes were covered in black growths which had coiled around them like sentient vines. Then the mist outside parted, revealing the first glimpse of what lay beyond. Towering, undulating shapes like the shadows of ancient sea gods loomed in the abyss. Eyes vast and unblinking peered through the void, each gaze heavy with unknowable intent. And then, from the mist, the first tendril slithered onto the deck. The tendril coiled tightly around the deck railing, glistening with an unnatural slickness. It pulsed as though alive, a deep inky black that seemed to absorb what little light remained. Laura and Mark stood frozen, their minds struggling to process the horror unfolding before them. A wet slithering sound followed as more tendrils crept over the ship's edge, pulling themselves forward with an unsettling purpose. The passengers who had gathered near the lifeboat screamed and stumbled backwards. One man, a middle-aged tourist in a Hawaiian shirt, turned to flee but slipped on the now damp, briny deck. Before he could scramble away, a tendril shot out and wrapped around his ankle. The man let out a shriek of pure terror as he was dragged toward the railing. He clawed at the wood, his nails splintering as he tried to hold on. Mark lunged forward, grabbing the man's wrists, but the force pulling him was too strong. The creature beyond the mist yanked, and in one swift motion, the man was gone, swallowed into the abyss. Laura gasped, her breath coming in ragged bursts. "We have to go! We have to get inside!" The rest of the passengers didn't need convincing. They rushed toward the nearest doors, pushing and shoving in their desperation. Mark pulled Laura along, his grip firm but trembling. As they made it inside, a sickening screech tore through the ship, the metal groaning as though something massive was pressing against it. The emergency lights flickered violently, casting jagged shadows across the walls. The Oceanic Star groaned again, as if whatever was outside was testing its weight, seeing just how much pressure it could take before the hull gave way. They reached the central atrium, where dozens of passengers had already gathered, some crying, others frantically trying to reach loved ones on their phones, though none had service. A crew member, his uniform soaked in sweat, tried to maintain order. "Everyone, please, we need to remain calm," his voice cracked, betraying his own fear. "The captain is working to get us out of here," he said. "Out of where? We're not even on the map anymore. You saw those things," a woman cried. "We're not supposed to be here. We need to get off this ship now." The murmur of fear grew into outright panic. More screams echoed from other parts of the ship, distant yet piercing. A pounding sound reverberated through the floors, something moving, something searching. Then came a new noise, a low, resonant chime. It was deep, almost melodic, but it vibrated in their bones. It wasn't coming from the ship. Laura turned to Mark. "That sound, it's calling to something." Mark's face was pale, sweat dripping down his temple. We have to get to the bridge. If the captain is still alive, he's our only shot at figuring out what the hell is happening. They moved quickly, ducking down the corridors, the sound of their own footsteps swallowed by the growing, undulating hum outside. The deeper into the ship they went, the more unnatural it felt. The metal walls pulsed as though the Oceanic Star was breathing. The air itself was thick with moisture, and it smelled wrong, not like seawater, but like something much older, something untouched by time. As they neared the bridge, they found the doors sealed shut. Mark banged on them. "Captain, open up! We need to know what's going on!" There was no answer. Laura pressed her ear against the cold steel, listening. Silence. Then tap, tap, tap. Her heart stopped. Something was knocking from the other side. She stumbled backward as the door creaked open. The dim emergency lighting cast a crimson glow on the bridge's interior, and what they saw inside sent ice down their spines. The captain stood at the helm, his hands gripping the controls so tightly that his knuckles were bone white. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and his lips trembled as though whispering something. Behind him, the large glass windows of the bridge revealed nothing but the swirling mist. It pressed against the ship like a living thing, shapes moving within it, shapes too large, too impossible to exist. Mark hesitated before stepping forward. "Captain?" The man didn't respond. Laura edged closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "What's happening?" The captain let out a shaky breath, his voice hoarse as he finally spoke. "Looks like they found us." Mark's stomach clenched. "Who?" he asked. The captain's grip tightened on the wheel. "The ones who wait beneath. The ones we were never meant to see." The ship shuddered violently, throwing them off balance. The mist outside seemed to ripple, shifting, revealing glimpses of something enormous. Tentacles, eyes, moving shadows that stretched beyond reason. The chime came again, louder this time, reverberating through the ship as if responding to something unseen. Laura grabbed Mark's hand, her voice shaking. "We have to move, now!" The captain turned to them slowly. His pupils were dilated, and a single trickle of blood dripped from his nose. "You can't run from them." Then, as if answering his words, the windows of the bridge cracked. A thunderous boom rattled the entire ship, the sound of something colossal breaking the barrier between their world and whatever lay beyond the mist. The ship lurched, and for one heart-stopping moment, it felt as if it were being pulled downward. Screams filled the corridors as people lost their footing, tumbling over chairs and railings. The mist poured through the shattered glass, tendrils of it slinking inside as if searching. The captain exhaled sharply, his eyes rolling back into his head before he collapsed to the floor. Mark grabbed Laura, pulling her away. "We need to find another way out." They ran, dodging the debris that fell around them. The ship was coming apart, its metal walls groaning like a wounded beast. The tendrils of mist followed, weaving through the corridors, reaching, searching. They stumbled upon a stairwell leading to the lower deck, and Mark hesitated. "The engine room. Maybe we can do something." Suddenly, the ceiling above them split open. A massive inhuman appendage slithered through, its black surface covered in shifting, glowing symbols. It pulsated as though alive, and when it touched the floor, the metal melted away like wax. Laura let out a sob. The ship gave one final violent shudder, and everything tilted. The Oceanic Star was sinking, but not into water, into the mist. As the chime rang one last time, everything around them vanished, and the Oceanic Star disappeared from existence.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, so we can bring you the latest updates and videos from our channel. And please be sure to comment and let us know what kind of stories you wish to see in the future. Stay haunted.